Hasshaku-sama, the 8-foot-tall woman. If you're here on this channel, you've no doubt at least heard of her. She's one of the most famous creepypastas to have come out of Ni Channel since its inception, and has since grown into an independent urban legend in her own right, featured in all sorts of media from video games to manga to even anime. But who or what is she? And how did her story come into being? If you're not familiar with her story, I'll leave a link in the comments where you can listen to the full thing. But to very quickly sum it up, it first appeared on Ni Channel in 2008, where the anonymous poster claimed to visit his grandparents in the countryside one summer. While there, he saw an incredibly tall woman who looked to be over 2 meters tall and wearing a white dress with a white hat on. This woman had a strange laugh that sounded like po po po, and when he told his grandparents about it, they freaked out. He was locked in a bedroom protected with various charms overnight and told not to come out, no matter what he heard. He survives until morning, only to find numerous male relatives have arrived to usher him out of town. He survived, but this woman, Hasshaku-sama, as they call her, now has her sights set on him and he can never return. They're able to safely get him out, but years down the track he gets a call saying that the statues keeping Hasshaku-sama bound to the village have broken. She's on her way to find him once more. Within the story, several key points are brought up about who or what Hasshaku-sama is. Although she appears as a young woman in a white dress and hat to the boy, that's not the only form that she's known to take. Sometimes she appears as a woman in a mourning dress, sometimes an old lady in a kimono, or sometimes a middle-aged woman in farm clothes. There are 3 things, however, that distinguish her regardless of how she appears. She is always incredibly tall, she always wears something on her head, and she always has that strange po 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 laugh. Nobody is quite sure what, exactly, Hasshaku-sama is. Is she a spirit? A kami? A yokai? No one knows, but there were rumours that she was once a possessed traveller who was just passing through the village she's now trapped in. She was sealed in the village by various Jizo statues placed at strategic exits at each of the compass points in town, certain paths that Hasshaku-sama could, for some unknown reason, only pass through. Now, why would you want to keep something as dangerous as Hasshaku-sama trapped in your own city? After all, the story states that once she has her eyes set on someone, and she seems to like young men and children in particular, they end up dying within a few days. She appears somewhat regularly, although by the time the story takes place, the last time anyone saw her was 15 years earlier. Why would you want to keep that trapped in your village? As it turned out, it was a simple arrangement made long ago. The village accepted Hasshaku-sama because doing so gave them water rights that they desperately needed to live. She only appeared once roughly every 10 years, so it was a deal too good to pass up. What's the loss of one person every decade when the rest of the village is able to sustain itself, right? Little else is explained about how Hasshaku-sama came into being or how they knew how to trap her, but this is the history we're given from the story. Once she sets her sights on someone, Hasshaku-sama will do whatever it takes to claim them. She's able to mimic voices, which she does with the boy's grandfather in the story, trying to lure him from his warded room. He realizes at the last moment what's going on, but many others aren't so lucky, and she has apparently claimed numerous lives over the years. It's indicated that once she has set her sights on someone, she's able to, in a way, track them genetically. Again, it isn't explained how, but the boy's final getaway in the end is successful because they invite all of the men in his family who live nearby to help confuse her. With the boy bundled away in the car and his relatives spread out across several vehicles, she's not sure exactly which one is him until she gets up close. After escaping, the boy hears from his father that one of his friends was killed by Hasshaku-sama when he was a boy, and several people had to move away from the village never to return as well. People have escaped her grasp before, but it's not easily done, and it means never coming back again. The boy even ended up missing his grandfather's funeral because he wasn't able to return to the village for it. In the end, however, he gets that fateful call that one of the Jizo statues has broken, and it's the one that leads towards where he lives. Somehow, Hasshaku-sama found a way to escape, and now she could be anywhere in Japan, free to kill children and young men all over the country. Once she's done with the narrator, who will be next? Nobody knows, and that's part of what made the story stand out so much at the time. It was creative, it was terrifying, it relied on unsettling imagery and a threat so powerful that once she sets her sights on you, you can't ever escape. Ever. But is she real? Of course she's not. Like numerous urban legends before her, Hasshaku-sama was created merely as a scary story. She was posted during the height of Ni-channel's scary story boom, when everyone was getting in on the act and trying to create the next big hit. Ni-channel is of course anonymous, which makes it the perfect breeding ground for urban legends. A story can very quickly spread, and while losing particular details, still pick up enough steam if it has enough distinctive aspects for readers to lock onto. And Hasshaku-sama has all of the elements necessary to become an urban legend. She has a very particular and distinctive look. She's nearly 2.5 meters tall and wears a white dress with a white hat. This makes it easy for readers to imagine her, and easy for artists to draw her. Just like Kuchisake Onna is known for her distinctive cut mouth, or Teke Teke is known for having no lower body, it's a unique image that people could latch onto and immediately recognize upon seeing. Her distinctive laugh, po po po, also adds a little something extra, similar to Kuchisake Onna's question of, "Am I pretty?" Another important feature for something to become an urban legend is a method of escaping. It may not always work, but having a way to avoid danger, at least for the time being, plays a vital part in the great majority of urban legends. With Hasshaku-sama, the boy was locked in a warded room with piles of salt and told not to come out until morning, no matter who might call out to him during the night. Then, he has to get out of town, literally, and never come back. The danger is massive. Hasshaku-sama will literally kill you once she's set her sights on you, but there is a glimmer of hope, no matter how small it is. A story where you instantly die and there's no way of escape doesn't quite build the same amount of suspense as an edge-of-your-seat escape that literally changes how you must live the rest of your life. With all of those elements in place, it's no surprise Hasshaku-sama took off and become the legend she is today. Over the years, there has been a lot of discussion about where the original story may have taken place. Like many other legends, many readers decided the small village had to be somewhere in the Tohoku region, Japan's northeast. Tohoku is notorious for being a cold, rugged area with long memories and long-lived customs. It's a hard place to live, and so the people must be hard as well to survive it. All sorts of monsters and urban legends are said to come from there, so why not Hasshaku-sama as well? But is there any proof of that? Some wondered if the Hasshaku in her name, which in English can be translated to 8 shaku, with shaku being a measurement of roughly 30 centimeters, doesn't actually refer to her height, but a place instead. And there is only one place in Japan that has Hasshaku in its name. Surprise, surprise, it's in Aomori, a place called Hasshaku-do. Looking at it, it certainly looks like it could pass for the small village in the story. A few houses with lots of rice fields and forests. By all accounts, it's an idyllic countryside village that primarily deals in dairy farming and racehorse breeding. There are even people who live there with the same last name. Could the original poster have, at the very least, been inspired by this tiny countryside village? Was it a place they visited themselves as a child, perhaps visiting relatives, or they just happened to live nearby and knew of it? It's definitely a possibility, but considering that nobody knows who the original poster was, it's something that will always be up in the air. There's also a good chance that she was at least partly inspired by Taka-onna, a yokai popular during the Edo period, who was tall enough to peek into the second-floor windows of brothels. She was thought to be so ugly that no man would have her, and being a jealous woman, she enjoyed shocking those inside the rooms when they saw her. Their incredible height is the only thing they really have in common, however, so how big of an influence she was, if any, is still up for debate. Interestingly, if we head all the way down to Shikoku in Japan's south, we can find a shrine that uses the same characters for Hasshaku. This shrine is pronounced Yasaka, however, and Shikoku is also known for its fair share of yokai and supernatural stories. There's also a Yasaka shrine in Ehime that was built during the Nara period. It received the name Yasaka during the Meiji period, and the source of that name came from one of Japan's 3 sacred treasures, the Yasakani no Magatama. Now, while both of these use the same characters, it's unlikely that they had too much influence on the story we know today. Despite her somewhat humble beginnings as an anonymous creepypasta on Ni Channel, Hasshaku-sama has become so famous that her reach now extends to the general public as well. She might not be as famous as the likes of Kuchisake Onna, but as more and more time goes on, more and more people have their own Hasshaku-sama stories to share. One of those is comedian Yoshida Yuri, known by her comedian name of Yuri-an Retriever. She once shared a story about riding her bike through Namba in Osaka one night on her way to a flower viewing party. As she got near the park, she noticed a lone woman jumping up and down on the spot behind a slide, muttering something that wasn't really a song, but not really understandable words either. She continued past her to buy some snacks at the shops, and when she returned, the woman was gone. She mentioned it to her friends who were waiting at the park, but none of them had seen this woman. According to them, she was never there to begin with. When one of the men stood near the slide, she realized just how tall that woman that only she had seen had been. The man was 180 centimeters tall, and the slide was higher than his head. Yet, that same slide only reached the woman's shoulders, meaning she was well over 2 meters tall. Not only that, but she was wearing a white dress. Sound familiar? Yuri-an Retriever started her career long after Hasshaku-sama was posted on Ni Channel, so there's a good chance that what she saw, if she indeed did see it and it wasn't just an anecdote to stir up a little conversation, was at least partly influenced by the burgeoning urban legend. In 2012, yet another anonymous story was shared on Ni Channel that featured 3 men out for a drive in Fukushima. According to the poster, what looked like a tanuki ran out onto the road, and they swerved, colliding with a Jizo statue on the side of the road. Almost immediately, an incredibly tall woman came speeding past them, smiling and saying, "Thank you," as she ran past the car from behind them. This story was undoubtedly trying to add itself into the legend, offering an explanation for how the Jizo statue broke in the first place, and even giving a more definitive location for the story. But Ni Channel is notorious for people trying to insert themselves into famous stories, so whether you really want to believe it or not is up to you. Ever since the story got big, you can find all sorts of eyewitness accounts on the internet from people who claim to have really seen her. These seem especially prominent in the Tohoku region, once again, with reports of people seeing a woman over 2 meters tall standing in a residential parking lot, walking behind tall fences, and so on. There were also reportedly so many sightings in Ibaraki Prefecture at one point that, much like Kuchisake Onna, the police and schools had to issue a warning about approaching this incredibly tall woman that people had reportedly seen lurking in the area. Hasshaku-sama has also spawned many copycats, with Akusara perhaps being the most famous of all. Her full name is Acrobatic Sarasara, with sarasara being a word commonly used to describe silky hair, which she apparently has, and acrobatic coming from her style of movement. She's commonly seen on rooftops and high places, perhaps thanks to her acrobatic nature. And depending on who you talk to, she may also be missing her eyes and have a slit mouth as well. And, like Hasshaku-sama, once she sets her sights on you, it's all over. She'll pursue you until death. Your death. She's basically a mix of Hasshaku-sama and Kuchisake Onna, which makes her quite popular as well. Whether she really is Hasshaku-sama or an entirely different entity is up for debate though. As mentioned earlier, Hasshaku-sama's white dress is only one of many appearances she has, so Akusara might actually be her in a different outfit. Or she could be someone different entirely. That part is still debated. At the end of the day, Hasshaku-sama was in the right place at the right time, and that's what helped turn her from an anonymous story posted on Ni Channel to the urban legend that she is today. All of the elements within the story were in place, and the timing of the post during the height of the occult boom on Ni Channel made her, no pun intended, rise above the rest to become a legend in her own right. What she was inspired by, if anything, is still up for debate, and where she came from has also been the subject of much discussion. But it's the enduring mystery that keeps people coming back for more. It's not a mystery that's likely to ever be fully solved. It is, after all, just an anonymous internet creepypasta. But what do you guys think? What has been your favourite Hasshaku-sama appearance so far? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.